Live.
Thank you very much.
Let's go into Kenya's preparedness. What have you put in place to ensure that we are able to deal with Ebola should it come into the country?
So we have a Ebola outbreak contingency plan that details exactly what needs to happen before any case is diagnosed here and after. So it defines coordination. So there are two levels. One is political level, headed by the cabinet secretary, and it brings the multi-sectoral agency. And then you also have the technical team that I head and brings a lot of partners in it. We also have case management. So we have been training health workers, Okada, from doctors to nurses, laboratory people, including people in the mortuary, because everyone needs to be aware of the risk. Remember, 81 health workers have died in West Africa.
Right.
So we have been expanding beyond the doctors. We're also looking at the standard guidelines on how to manage the cases, how to transport specimens, and so on. So we're kind of having standard operating procedures on all critical steps.
Let's talk about, yes, please go ahead.
We also have ensured that we have diagnostic capacity. We have actually 3 labs that can be able to diagnose Ebola within 8 hours. So we have at Kemri, we also have one Nairobi University, and also have CDC laboratory.
Are you expanding that?
We have in capacity even to help our neighbors if need be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about quarantine facilities, which is, I know, something people think about. You look at health centers which already have capacity issues. How are you going to deal with that?
So at the airport, we have been screening passengers, and we have isolation facility, so that in case we suspect you have Ebola, we put you aside, and you have 2 facilities in the airport. That's kind of a holding room waiting for you to be transferred to Kenya National Hospital. And we are trying to expand also the capacity within Kenya National Hospital. We are also looking outside Nairobi because we also have port of entry, Mombasa. We also have Uasin Gishu because of the Eldoret airport. We also have Malaba. So we're also looking at all these port of entry to identify potential areas. So within Nairobi as well, we're also looking at facilities in Nairobi, just in case Kenya get overwhelmed. We're also looking at the lessons learned in Liberia, for example, that one facility can easily be overwhelmed. We're also looking at facilities in the neighborhood identified before, so that in need be, then you can be able to set them up quickly and go into action. At
entry points and border points, how are you going to identify people who have the fever or who look like they're suffering from Ebola? How will you do that?
Okay, first of all, when you enter into the country, we are taking your temperature. So we have a threshold. Anybody with 37.2 and above, with the history of a headache, then you have abdominal pain, chills, or you have symptoms suggestive of Ebola, you are put aside. Particularly if you have a history of having traveled in West Africa. So if you meet our case definition, you are put aside for further screening, just to identify where you have been and who you have been in contact with, have been in contact with sick people, and if you suspect you fit in very well with our case definition, we they'll process you further. You are straight away taken to isolation facility.
Now finally,
and then we take a sample then to be able to know whether you have Ebola or not. And so far, we have taken samples from 8 patients, and all of them have tested negative.
This is happening on the backdrop of what we're describing in parts of this country as a health crisis. With a devolved government, there is a challenge, there's a push and pull, and we're seeing it impacting very negatively on health workers. How are you going to manage this, and what's the way forward on that crisis?
I think we have to be sincere, all of us, and say what's the best way forward for us. Kenyans out there want a functional health system. They don't really care who is having what function. They just want to show they have a functional health system. And we are going to work closely. We are committed to make devolution work. If there are challenges, we need to resolve them collectively as Kenyans and say, how do we resolve the issue? At the end of the day, people want accessible quality health care. And that's all of us committed to ensure that both national and county government collectively work together to address the challenges they're having. So this is a challenge of transition, but if there's commitment to resolve the issue, it will be resolved.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Nicholas Muragori. You have a lot on your plate, and we wish you all the best with your docket. We move on now to members of county assemblies, who are expected in Nairobi this weekend in a bid to adopt a common stand on the referendum. The MCAs will play a major role in a referendum, since changes to the constitution through popular initiative must be supported by at least 24 out of 47 county assemblies. As Francis Gashuri reports, Jubilee members of parliament will meet on Wednesday to strategize on how to counter the governor's referendum agenda. Let's take a look.